Hello, and welcome to another equipment video hosted on this YouTube channel. This one offers an in-depth look at the PGE-BCR's fleet of RS-10S locomotives. If you would like to know more about these locomotives for general interest or for modeling reference, this video is for you. The Pacific Great Eastern Railway took delivery of 8 RS-10S locomotives in May and June of 1956, and they followed on from the RS-3s. These were built by Montreal Locomotive Works as a successor to the RS-3 model. They were equipped with an upgraded version of the 12-cylinder Model 244 engine, and they rode on BB drop-side equalizer trucks. Mechanically, they were very similar to the earlier RS-3 model, but they were housed in a taller car body. This new car body lacked the distinctive corner notches of the Alco high hood locomotives seen in the United States, and this resulted in what many considered to be a rather handsome design. A total of 128 RS-10 units were built for Canadian National, Canadian Pacific, Ontario Northland, and the Pacific Great Eastern. During the production run, a change from conventional to static excitation of the generator was implemented, and the latter units were designated Model RS-10S. This included the 8 PGE units. Numbers 579 to 586 were delivered from Montreal Locomotive Works in May and June of 1956, and upon arrival in Vancouver, they were barged up to Squamish. Let's look at these unique locomotives and how we might be able to model them authentically. These are the builder's photographs for number 582, taken upon completion. They show the high car body design. The 1,200-gallon rectangular fuel tank was identical to those fitted to the later RS-3 units. Note the MU retainers at the bottom of the plate pilots. The first unit, number 579, is seen upon arrival at Squamish in May 1956, sporting its orange and green paint scheme. Coincidentally, this was also the last month of steam locomotive operation on the PGE. A few days later, and numbers 579 and 580 have made their first trip north from Squamish. And here we see number 581 at North Vancouver in July 1960. This is 4 years after delivery. At this point in time, the locomotives remained unmodified. During the early 1960s, the 8 RS-10 locomotives received car body modifications similar to the RS-3s. This was to solve the problem of air taken in ahead of the prime mover, which was depositing engine oil onto the generator and turbocharger, creating servicing issues. A firewall was inserted between the engine and generator, the car body filters on the long hood were closed up, and air was taken in through new filters on the left side of the short rear hood, and the air was ducted underneath the cab floor to the generator. During the late 1960s or early 1970s, the bell was moved from beneath the frame to a position high on the front end of the long hood, and some units received a 3-chime air horn in place of the original 5-chime one. In 1962, the railway's locomotives began to be repainted in overall dark green with orange pilots and handrails. This scheme was soon amended to include orange ends for improved visibility. Over time, the Caribou Herald on the cab side was replaced with the large PGE initials and subsequently with a mapped logogram. All of these heralds were applied in orange. The next scheme to appear was the two-tone green livery with the light and dark green separated by a horizontal white stripe and a white mapped logogram on the cab side. This is number 582 at North Vancouver in August of 1962, recently repainted in the all dark green scheme with orange frame stripe, handrails, and the pilots with the green striping. The road name, road number, and Caribou Herald are also orange. In the green forests of British Columbia, this scheme presented obvious visibility issues, especially with the train coming toward you. And so we see the amendment in the photograph here, number 585 at Fort St. John in January of 1969. This is the all dark green scheme, modified with orange ends for improved visibility, and a change to the map herald on the cab side. And you'll note that the road name along the long hood has now been deleted. Note also that the bell is still below the frame at the front left end. And here's number 579 in the same scheme, seen at Fort St. John in July of 1970. The new car body filters in the short rear hood can be seen clearly here, and they've replaced the ones on the long hood. This is 585 in the two-tone green scheme with white map herald, and it's seen at North Vancouver in April of 1972. This was the month when the railway changed its name to the British Columbia Railway. Note that the bell has now been moved up to the front end of the long hood. 3 years after the railway's change of name, number 579 is still in the PGE two-tone green scheme. It is seen here at North Vancouver in August of 1975. Following the railway's change of name, effective in April of 1972, the two-tone green scheme was modified to include the new BCR dogwood logogram on the cab sides. The dark green was extended up over the cab sides and roof, and the black roof was dispensed with. 6 units, number 579, 580, 582, 584, 585, and 586, were all rebuilt with a low, short hood for improved visibility during switching. This was done during the 1970s. A new cab face was added above the short hood. They remained oriented for long hood forward. Following the rebuilds, they were repainted for the British Columbia Railway, and the rebuild dates are seen here. Number 579 was the last to be rebuilt, some years after the previous 5, and it received a modified paint scheme with the reflective yellow frame stripe and an italic cab number. The 2 remaining units, number 581 and 583, were never rebuilt, and they retained their high short hoods to the end. Both were repainted for the British Columbia Railway. This is number 584 at Prince George in July of 1973, just a few months after its rebuild. Note that the new rear cab face with the new rear headlight and number boards and sandboxes on top of the short hood. This is another view of 584, this time at Fort St. John in September of 1976. This left side view shows the car body filters in the short hood have now been reoriented horizontally due to the reduced height of the hood. Note that the bell and the horn remain facing forwards. This is a close-up view of number 580 at North Vancouver in December of 1978. During yard operations, the lowered rear hood and the new rear windows improved visibility. This was particularly important when the engine was reversing toward and across grade crossings. Number 581 was one of 2 units to retain the high short hood, and it is seen here at North Vancouver in March of 1978. Numbers 581 and 583 retained this appearance until their retirement. As the last RS-10 to be rebuilt, number 579 received a modified paint scheme with reflective yellow frame stripe and italic cab number. Note also the provision of an all-weather window on the right side of the cab. These were also fitted to some RS-3s during their latter years. Number 583 was the first of the RS-10s to be retired in October 1983, and it was rebuilt as a replacement for wrecked RS-18 number 601. The salvaged components were transferred to the RS-10 frame, and the locomotive returned to service as an 1800 horsepower unit numbered 601. And then in 1994, it was taken in hand again for conversion to a CRS-20, and it served until the CN takeover in 2004. Similarly, number 581 was retired in April of 1985, and it was rebuilt as an 1800 horsepower unit with components salvaged from the wrecked RS-18 number 606. It returned to service as 606, and it was rebuilt as a CRS-20 unit in 1993, and it also served until 2004. In late 1985, the railway decided to retire all remaining 244-engined locomotives, and the remaining RS-3 and RS-10 locomotives were brought down to Squamish for retirement and storage. While there, number 579 was pressed into yard service at Squamish, and on December 22nd, just a few days before retirement, it was wrecked in a serious collision with a southbound freight train in the North Yard. Following their retirement and storage, number 586 was sold to the Railway Museum in Prince George, and it has remained on static display there ever since. The remaining 5 units were eventually scrapped. This slide shows number 601 and 606, which were rebuilt from the retired RS-10 units 583 and 581, respectively. These rebuilt locomotives were identical mechanically to the RS-18 units they replaced, but the RS-10 frames were 1 foot shorter than the original RS-18 frames. As mentioned, number 579 was destroyed in a collision just days prior to retirement. I recorded this photograph of number 579 at Squamish after it had been recovered onto a CN flat car in February of 1986. And 586 went to the Railway Museum in Prince George, and it's seen on display there in 1998. The locomotive has not yet been restored at the time of making this video. Let's now look at modeling the RS-10 locomotives. Several models have appeared in HO scale, including a brass offering from Overland Models some years ago, and plastic versions from Proto 1000 and Rapido trains. In N scale, two-line trains offered an RS-18, which would be a good starting point for an RS-10. Briggs Models offered cast resin and later 3D printed parts for the RS-10 and RS-18 car bodies in HO and N scale. This included the original high hood short version of the RS-10 and the rebuilt versions with low short hood for BCR. The Atlas RS-11 mechanism, manufactured originally by Kato in Japan and later made in China, offers a suitable starting point for an RS-10 kit bash. I undertook 2 RS-10 conversions many years ago now, based on the Atlas Kato RS-11 mechanism and car body. The fuel tank and pilots were replaced with Kaslo Shop's resin parts, and the aftercooler intake and large headlights were replaced with custom resin parts. The corner notches were filled in with styrene, and number boards from Miniatures by Eric were added after these photographs were taken. The auxiliary lights and air horn are also from Miniatures by Eric. The various grab irons were fashioned from brass wire. This is a model of number 581, which retained the high short hood. And the other model represents number 584, one of 6 units rebuilt with a low short hood. Styrene was used for the new cab face, to fill in the rear brake wheel housing, and for the sandboxes atop the short hood. Not seen in these construction photographs are the replacement handrails, which were assembled from etched parts and brass wire. This is my completed model of 581 with a high rear hood. The model was painted with custom paint mixes and finished with microscale decals. The model is equipped with a TCS M4 decoder and digital lighting. Now, 40 years after these models were finished, they are still running very well. And here's my finished model of number 584 with the lowered short hood. This model also continues to run well. However, the older Atlas Kato mechanisms are not really suitable for conversion to digital sound. The older mechanisms and decoders are hard to speed match with my newer Atlas China RS3s. So I am planning to replace both models with newer printed shells on the Atlas China RS-11 mechanisms. Those run much more smoothly, and they are suitable for digital sound, and they will run much better with my RS3s. As always, thanks to the individuals who contributed photographs for this presentation, and also to those who have assisted with various aspects of my models. I hope that you have enjoyed this video on the Railway's RS-10 locomotives. If you have, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel if you've not done so. I hope to upload further equipment videos in the future, including a look at some of the Railway's other locomotives. Thank you for watching, and see you again soon.